Well, Mark Zuckerberg has sent an interesting letter, let's just put it that way, that is laying out the censorship that Facebook and other meta companies have instituted and who pressured them to do this. And yes, friends, they are pointing out very clearly they are undermining the lies that have come out of this government about censorship. Friends, we experienced some of that here on this channel just yesterday, and we all know it's happening. You all have experienced it. Most of you have experienced this firsthand. And now we have Mark Zuckerberg cracking the wall. We had cracks appear over at Twitter when Elon Musk took over and started releasing documents to journalists to sift through and to release information about the censorship operations that Twitter was coordinating with the U.S. federal government. Now we have Meta, or Facebook's parent company, Instagram and all of them, clearly saying that they were being pressured by the federal government and coordinated by the federal government to do this as well. We're not going to make you read through the entire boring legalese document, but we are going to sum it up. We're also going to cross-examine that a little bit against what some of the chief officers inside this administration have said along the course of things. We have Mayorkas out there who clearly perjured himself, and it's just unbelievable what he has said. So let's jump into it. So here's a summary of what the House Judiciary Committee sums this letter up as admitting. 3 main points here. That the Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. The Biden administration was picking up the phone and sending emails and texts to Facebook to tell them to censor people and to censor topics. And this is absolutely insane. All right, second point, that Facebook indeed did censor Americans. So not only was the federal government pressuring them to do these things, they did actually do them. Which is interesting because that's very anti what Facebook has said up to this point. Oh, no, we haven't done any of that. We haven't played games like that. And yet, that's exactly what they've done. Number 3, Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. They did that before the election. There is no if, and, or buts about this. There's no question of this. They did it. And we have Mark Zuckerberg out there saying so in a legal document. Now, this document was sent to Chairman Jordan of the Committee on the Judiciary in the U.S. House of Representatives, right? Now, I'm not clear 100% on whether he was requested to send this letter, whether he was actually replying to accusations, questions from this Committee on the Judiciary. But the fact is that Committee on the Judiciary is an interesting committee for this to be going to. Because that's where you'd expect impeachment proceedings to start from. Now, Alejandro Mayorkas, our esteemed or whatever, he is the Secretary of Homeland Security. And so basically, Homeland Security Department, all of those agencies, the FBI. Yep. He's the head of the FBI and all that. He was dragged before Congress, before the Senate, not too long ago. Senator Hawley was cross-examining him and pushing him. He didn't even ask him, were you guys doing this? He laid out the cards, the emails showing that the Department of Homeland Security absolutely was doing this. He asked Mayorkas, is this constitutional? And Mayorkas replied back with, unequivocally false. Senator Hawley just couldn't believe what he was hearing, and so he asked him very point blank, clearly, you are, quote, you are not pressuring the big tech companies to take down accounts. You are not meeting with them to ask them to censor on your behalf. To which Mayorkas replied, that is correct. We are not. And I believe that was under oath at the time. But lying to the Senate is kind of a big deal. That's definitely a big deal out there. But we've had categorical denials at every level, not only from Twitter to YouTube to Facebook, that they're not doing this stuff. And you and I know that they are. If you step on certain topics, you start getting your accounts throttled, where you're not getting much reach at all. And then you have these woke, pink-haired leftists that seem to be getting promoted on all sorts of different topics. So in this letter, we see especially in 2021, senior officials, this is from Mark Zuckerberg, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months, this is not a one-off thing, to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take down content, and we own our decisions, including the COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. Outspoken. They lied. They flat out lied. Mark Zuckerberg flat out lied. I did not dig up the receipts on that one. If any of you guys see that, please hit me up on Twitter. I appreciate a lot of you guys moved over to Twitter or signed up on Twitter or linked up or followed up with my account. That is a great way to get in contact with me or whatever. Just do the @the Poplar report thing to make things pop up on my feed. Anyway, Mark Zuckerberg was saying, nope. We're not throttling people's accounts. We're not throttling topics. Everything's fair game. Lie, lie, lie. And now it's like, oh, well, we could have said we were doing that. Maybe a little louder. We were saying it, but these people have zero integrity. It is unbelievable. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. If you've been on Facebook, you know how absolutely naked the censorship is over there. They were going after people just talking about canning vegetables. I have friends that were kicked off Facebook for posting information about canning vegetables. They weren't talking about the government. They weren't talking about the cough. They weren't talking about any of that. They were talking about how to can vegetables. And that made them domestic terrorists, apparently. They absolutely target and have targeted. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. Burisma, of course, is the Ukrainian business energy company that somehow Hunter Biden became a board member of, even though he's never done anything in energy whatsoever. Doesn't speak Ukrainian, doesn't have any connections to Ukraine, except for... Wait, he has that family member. He had the Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, was his father. So that was the only connection there. Totally beyond me how we ever ended up getting dragged into a war with defending a country that's not even our ally. Yeah, totally beyond me about that. Just anyway, so Russian disinformation. So they took that, and when this story came out about Hunter Biden's laptop, they let's see here. It's since been made. We sent the story to fact checkers for review and temporarily until after the election, demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. Yeah. Can you believe that? Yeah, you shouldn't have. Yeah, that's definitely something that you shouldn't have done. You influenced the election by hiding information. We're not even going to talk about the journal of not his daughter, but not his son, but his daughter. Yeah. Not even going to talk about that being blocked and banned and everything else. So why is Mark Zuckerberg doing this? There are a couple options here of why he might be doing this. Possibly, and this is a little bit speculation. You guys let me know down in the comments what you guys think. It's possible that stuff is about to come out, or the congressional hearings are about to start focusing in on Mark Zuckerberg's censorship, and he's trying to get out ahead of this. That's quite possible. Mark Zuckerberg has been making some interesting noises recently. He's been saying some things like after the attempted of Donald Trump, he came out and said how much he admired Donald Trump, which what? That's not something you'd expect to hear from him. He's been talking more about freedom of speech recently. Now, Facebook and Instagram and all of them have not reflected that at all. Those ideas or some thoughts that he's said, some uncensored thoughts, how ironic is that? Uncensored thoughts on censoring thoughts have not lined up at all with the policies that we continue to see at Facebook and elsewhere. And I really believe that much of this is really coming from a systemic. We saw as Elon Musk pulled back the veil of what happened and transpired at Twitter, they had hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of employees whose exclusive job was to decide what to censor and what not to censor, what to demotivate. They just literally sat around and had meetings where they pulled up content and booted people and went after different content creators and posters and memes and topics, and they just went through and they had the switchboard in front of them. They were just playing with all the switches, which is exactly what happens here on YouTube as well. Let's just be honest. They have built a wall to keep any information from leaking out on how YouTube plays with all that in the background. But we saw when they started releasing stuff on the code of Twitter, how riddled, like over half the code of Twitter was actually them, promoting and demoting topics and people and the tags that they were attaching to everybody's accounts. You were getting these awards or these demotions that would get stuck to your account. And there's been a lot of reporting on that recently and such about that over on Twitter and such. That's why Elon Musk was able to go in and fire most of the people that worked there. And yet somehow Twitter actually works better now because it doesn't have the bazillion monkeys pulling all the levers in the background. And yet that's exactly what Facebook is. Like, do you think they really need all of their employees to basically keep tweaking the code of Facebook? I mean, Facebook's not exactly a difficult site to operate, right? Why do they need thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of employees? Because they need to make sure that they crack down on Granny who's trying to talk to other grannies about how to can vegetables. That's exactly why they need thousands and thousands of employees. But more than that, it's not just that tech companies deciding to use their own money and their influence to impact elections, but rather the fact is that all the breadcrumbs lead right back to the Biden administration, that the Biden administration was literally doing exactly what Mayorkas said they were not doing. You, as Senator Hawley asked him, you are not pressuring the big tech companies to take down accounts. You are not meeting with them to ask them to censor on your behalf. And that's exactly what he was doing. That's exactly what his staff were doing. The emails, all the receipts are out there. They haven't been turned in yet. The Twitter receipts have been turned in. Of course, the media has buried all of them as fast as they could, but they're all out there, particularly if you go on Twitter. It is clear that this government has attacked private citizens on the basis of speech crimes. And we're not talking about speech crimes in the traditional sense of threats or things that endanger, but rather topics and discussions that the federal government did not want to happen. How many thousands and tens of thousands of people are gone now because of those censored conversations? Other countries picked other things, other decisions of how to handle the cough and such, which were ridiculed, censored, and silenced here in the United States, that have demonstrably saved tens of thousands of lives in other countries, hundreds of thousands of lives. India rolled out decisions that they made at a national scale. They didn't invent some kind of poison to do stuff with. They took existing things that were out there that have safety records for decades, that were cheap to produce, and they mass distributed them. Brazil did the same thing. Countries in Europe, like Sweden, refused to box people in and block people from going out. Read between my words and understand what I am saying. This federal government literally is responsible for tens of thousands of people who are not with us today, if not millions, as the days go forward and we see more and more problems with what they rolled out, what they forced people to do, what they seriously pressured, and they blocked access to any criticisms of. They own this fully. And you can't be mad enough about it. There are heartbreaking things happening in the world that we really should be more upset about. And truth be told, we have a tendency to be very focused in on our own lives and the people that we care about. But I know many of you have had people that you care about who were forced into decisions, who were pressured into decisions with false information that was given to them from the highest levels. And then all opposition, all voices to the contrary were silenced from the direction from the White House. You know, there's these memes going out there like, you don't, talking about like the media, it's like, you don't hate these people enough. And, you know, they keep getting the receipts dropped on them. The things that they've said, the lies that they've told, the people that they've injured and ended because of their arrogance, their political agendas. And the same is true, and we're seeing this more evident by the day, that from the highest levels of Washington, D.C., we saw the very same things, and even worse. Friends, we talk about how that our country is absolutely at a pivotal deciding point, a fork in the road, so to speak. And I don't know if we can steer this thing back on course. But we need to try, because where this goes next, historically speaking, usually goes in a very dark and dangerous direction. Hopefully you guys are getting more prepared out there. Hopefully you understand what's going on out there. Hopefully you understand what has happened to us. And making sure that we do everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen again. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining with us. I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but sometimes we need to drop some receipts and see it again. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. You can just tap on the screen and it'll take you right to it. I'll see you guys over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.